there, my name's Paulie and welcome to this video and welcome to my workshop. Today we're going to have a look at fingerboard or fretboard radius, and I'll hopefully explain to you what it actually is, why we have different fingerboard and fretboard radiuses, and which one possibly best suits your style of playing. So let's have a look at the guitar. So now we're looking along the fingerboard of a Stratocaster from the body end, because the neck is actually wider at the body end, and I feel it's probably an easier way to see that radius where the fingerboard's actually wider. And if you look at it, you should be able to see that there's a gentle kind of curve, you know, to the fingerboard, and that is the radius. If I place a ruler above it, I should be able to rock it across, and you can actually see that it's not flat. So the Stratocaster had a fingerboard radius of 9.5 inches, and I'll explain to you what that actually means a little bit later. Here we have an early 90s Ibanez, and it actually has a 300mm radius fingerboard, which is very close to 12 inches. And if we look down there, you can actually see it's a lot flatter. If I grab the rule and we place it on top, you can see that it actually still does rock a little, but not nearly as much as what it did with the Strat. So here we have another Stratocaster, and this one has a compound radius fingerboard, and up this end it is 14 inches, which is even flatter again than what that Ibanez was. And if we place the rule on there, you should be able to see that, you know, it doesn't really rock anywhere near as much as what the other Strat did, and a little bit less than what the Ibanez did. So let's have a look at the other end, and it may be a little bit more difficult to see, but hopefully you can get an idea of what compound radius is. What it is the neck is flatter as you get closer to the body and more rounded as you get closer to the nut. And it's 9.5 inches at the first fret and 14 inches at the last fret. And hopefully, you know, later when I explain what fingerboard radius is and how it affects the way the guitar feels and plays, I'll be able to explain what the point of compound radius actually is. So if we look at that first fret, it actually appears to be a little rounder than what the 22nd fret did when the guitar was around the other way. And I should be able to show you, and it is a little more difficult with the strings on, I will admit, but you should be able to get the idea that, you know, this one's a 9.5 inch radius, and this guy up the back here is a 12 or 14 inch radius, sorry. So how do we measure fingerboard radius? And what does it mean when somebody says they've got a guitar with a fingerboard radius of 9.5 inches, 12 inches or 400mm? Well, to answer that question we need to do a little geometry lesson. We need to draw a circle and mark the center of that circle. Now, from the center of the circle to the perimeter of the circle is the radius. So a guitar with a neck that has a 9.5 inch fingerboard radius, essentially if you could continue on the curve of the frets, it would make a circle with a radius of 9.5 inches. To see what I mean, I essentially draw a cutaway of a guitar neck like this, and you can pretty well see what I mean. That's how it all comes into play. The same goes for 9.5 inches or 12 inches or whatever. the curve in those frets will be equivalent to the curve of a circle with a radius of whatever that neck happens to be. So now we know how fingerboard radius is measured and what it actually means. And the main reason why fingerboards are radiused is because of comfort reasons. A radiused fingerboard is more comfortable to play than a flat fingerboard. So why do we have all these different radius of fingerboards, and why do we have compound radius? You know, you can get everything from 7.5 inch up to 16 inches and beyond. Well, the simple answer to that is, when you radius a fingerboard, it's kind of a trade-off, particularly if you're the kind of person who likes to bend strings. A prime example would be if you had an old Strat or Telly with a 7.5 inch radiused fingerboard, and you had the action set nice and low on all the strings, and you bent, say, you know, the E string somewhere up here, you know, in the middle of the neck. If you bent it up towards the center of the neck, that string would more than likely fret out. It would buzz out on the frets further up the neck. That's because the action would be set low at the bridge for that particular spot on that fret, and as you bend it towards the middle, the frets actually get higher. So it actually buzzes out, it frets out, and the note will basically extinguish. So the quick fix to notes fretting out as you bend a string is to actually increase the action on the strings that you bend on. And you do this by increasing the height of the saddle at the bridge that that particular string is on. It's a little bit of a trade-off. With the increased action, you lose a little bit of playability higher up the neck, but it gets you past that problem. So another way to combat this problem is to actually buy a guitar with a flatter fingerboard radius, so that when you actually bend the string, the point at which it crosses the fret will not rise as much as the string bends. This means that the fretting out issue is kind of reduced quite a bit. The trade-off in that situation is you lose that radius, which is a little bit of that comfort. For some people it's not a big problem, for others it's a little bit of an issue. It's a personal preference thing, really. It's down to personal taste. So you trade off some of your comfort for a little bit more playability as far as bending is concerned, and flatter fingerboards tend to be better for shredding and things like that also. So lastly, we get to compound radius necks. Compound radius necks, as mentioned, have a smaller radius at the nut end, which means that the frets are more curved. And then as we get up towards the body, they progressively get flatter up to a larger radius. So the benefits of a compound radius neck are comfort for your open chords and bar chords up to probably around the 9th fret. And then from there on, it gets noticeably flatter and more akin to shredding and bending and things like that. The only real drawback with a compound radius neck that I'm aware of is when you actually have to have the guitar refretted, or at least get a fret level done. And if you want to maintain that compound radius, your luthier is going to have to be able to blend between the two radiuses that you have on the guitar. So with the Fenders that have compound radius neck, it's 9.5 inches here and 14 up here. That's the only drawback I can think of anyway. So I hope you now know everything that you wanted to know about fingerboard radius. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below, and please subscribe. Have a good day. I'll catch you later.